Hello everyone, this is part 13 of What If Naruto was female Orochimaru's target, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
A sat in a darkened office with only his rage and a half-empty bottle of whiskey for company. He was contemplating what could only be considered an insurrection he'd experienced. She using medical ninjutsu to render him unconscious, and then Darui and he sneaking their Raikage out of a village. As if he was some disobedient child and not their supreme commander. If that weren't bad enough, they said both B and Yugito planned to surrender to stop any attempts on his life. His enemies had his brother. His enemies thought him a coward. And his most trusted men did this to him. It was a minor miracle he hadn't killed the both of them. He still might, the desire was there. He didn't care about their justifications, it was not their job to question or challenge him. He ordered, they obeyed. And to think, he considered Darui as his future replacement. How could he now? How could he continue to have either of them around him when he couldn't trust them? He took a hard swig from the glass bottle. The burn of the alcohol a mere afterthought. He'd have to stay his hand for now. His first attempt failed, spectacularly, and B gave Konoha significant leverage. But it wouldn't matter, he would see Konoha fall regardless of what his idiot brother promised. He'd have to be smart. Wait until the perfect time. He'd also need an ally that excelled in deviousness. Mabui, A shouted with a drunken slur. Yes, Raikage-sama, she answered from the door. I need you to dictate a letter and send it high priority. His assistant came into his office, pen and pad in hand. A took a moment to gather his thoughts, trying his best to decide how to get the fence sitter to join his cause. Tsunade said as she slid down into her office chair, basking in the comfortable familiarity. It wasn't a long trip back, but it was a trying one, as the female container, Yugito, kept shooting dirty looks at Naruto. To his credit, he ignored her, but the Godime wanted to launch her back to Kumo via fist or foot. The only thing more annoying than Yugito's scowling gaze was B's incessant rapping. Everything came out as a rap. Everything. And once again, she had to give credit to her surrogate nephew, as he didn't seem to mind the large man's odd form of expression. Either of those could be dealt with, except Tsunade was also worried about her friend. Orochi had been subdued during their return. Not silent or withdrawn, but decidedly flat. It was clear something was bothering her, which is why it wasn't a surprise she requested Koharu join them. So, the three women sat as two waited on Orochi to start. So, I may need your help planning a wedding, Orochi said. Guests lists, decorations, the whole deal. I never really thought about it, so I'm somewhat at a loss. You think Naruto-kun would have some opinions? I don't imagine wedding planning is high on the list of concerns for men of any age, but I really don't know. Once she finished, Orochimaru looked to see surprised faces aimed at her. What? Details, girl. We need details, Koharu exclaimed. Not much to say really. After we got reacquainted. By Bangan, Tsunade interrupted but was ignored. He told me he loved me, found out I was pregnant, and then gave me a ring as he went to chase down A, recounted Orochi as she blandly went through the events. You make it sound like a mission report, Orochi-chan, Koharu remarked. What did he say when you said yes? I haven't said yes, yet. Tsunade looked a little concerned as she asked, are you having some doubts? You don't have to do it if you are. Kikuku, no, that isn't it. He was in mission mode, so it wasn't the time, and I was wondering how long I had to plan. I don't want to be huge in my wedding photos, she reasoned. The reactions of the other women in the room annoyed her. Stop grinning like idiots. Don't be like that, Orochi-chan, Tsunade said, teasingly. Yes, if we're going to undertake this planning, then be nice. It's good to remember you can act girly on occasion. Just know, I am not sewing your kimono. Tsunade can do that. With what time and what skill? You're retired and are like her mother, so that responsibility would fall to you, Tsunade argued. And as her surrogate sister, I say you do it or I'll cane you. I'll just go to a seamstress, Orochi said. Yay, no. We can't chance you being a bridezilla and ripping some poor soul in half, Tsunade responded. Give me some credit. I haven't done random acts of violence in months. I rest my case, Tsunade said, looking blankly at her best friend. I agree with Tsunade-chan. That's why she'll handle it. And while we're brainstorming, maybe you should tell your young man his proposal has been accepted. Orochi nodded and excused herself. Once Orochi was out of earshot, Koharu's smile faded into a hardened mask as she looked Tsunade in her eyes. You have a tough choice to make, Tsunade, Koharu informed her. Tsunade didn't ask what the choice was, she already knew. The Godime turned away from her longtime mentor to look upon the village. Kakashi entered his apartment, relieved to be home. The trip had been trying in a way he hadn't experienced since he'd left ANBU. Having that many high-ranked ninja in one location was just begging for an incident, and it appeared A really wanted to stir up some trouble. The copy ninja couldn't believe A really ran in fear of them. There was more to the story, but the truth would hardly matter. The story to come out of the Chunin exams would be A fleeing from Konoha's contingent and his brother begging for the Raikage's life. That would eventually lead to conflict. Hey, Kakashi, Obito said from the couch. Kakashi responded with an eye smile to his roommate. The initial meeting between them had been awkward. Some part of him hated Obito for taking Minato-sensei away, for the damage he'd done to Sasuke and Naruto, but most of him just felt sorry for his friend. To have watched Rin die, to be broken down by Madara Uchiha of all people, it was just too much. Kakashi understood why he gave up on the world. He also understood the desire for redemption even when knowing it was likely to never come. They had to form a new dynamic. They had grown and experienced too much to fall into old habits, but Kakashi felt lighter having his old friend around. Obito had a long road ahead of him, but Kakashi wouldn't abandon him. How was Suna? Obito asked, scooting over so Kakashi could join him on the couch. Kakashi then explained the events, including the foiled ambush and the arrival of Kiribi and Yugito. Obito laughed. The bastard laughed. There's no way you got paid enough for that. No, I did not, Kakashi answered, rubbing his one visible eye. Things are going to get bad, and I am not prepared to send my kids off to war, especially since I may not be there to watch over them, Kakashi confessed. Obito only nodded. With having one student as a Jonin and the others as experienced Chunin, chances are Kakashi would be pulled away to more pressing or specialized missions. Don't be so preoccupied with discussion with the future you don't allow the present to have its say, Obito cautioned. Ma, Obito. Sounding all wise and stuff, that's going to take some getting used to. Ha ha ha, Obito laughed sarcastically. It is generally the failures and the screw-ups who are the most wise, if they live long enough to mature. We know everything not to do. Kakashi forewent correcting his former teammate, knowing he often thought of himself as a failure even when others would vehemently disagree. Then, can I borrow some of that hard-earned wisdom? I can try, but I make no promises, Obito responded. What's up? What's up is I can't for the life of me make sense of why the Raikage seems to have a special and focused dislike of Naruto. If things go for the worst, I have no doubt he'll have assassination squads for much of the next generation, but there is something about Naruto that just really gets at the man, and I can't imagine why. Because he saw Sensei as a rival? Obito questioned knowingly, and Kakashi nodded. Like with many a broken boy, you must look to the father, Kakashi. From the information Zetsu provided me, A plateaued after his father's death, meaning he likely never surpassed the man in strength. And given his belief that you rule and govern through strength, he sees himself as what? A pretender? Kakashi asked, interrupting the Uchiha. Maybe, or somehow not altogether worthy. And how does that relate to Naruto? As strong as A was, he was not considered the strongest Kage of his era. He was not able to define the era either. Who was? Sandaime-sama, Kakashi answered, his genius-level intellect erecting a full picture. A gets a dossier from Rasa warning him of a burgeoning ninjutsu prodigy, having mastered all 5 elements and creating original jutsu left and right, excellent weapon user with a great lineage. He thinks Naruto could have been his Hiruzen. Yup, and the Sandaime didn't have the strongest of the Biju sealed in him. If Naruto were just powerful or extremely fast like Sensei, A probably wouldn't regard him as he does. But you know how hard it is to create one original jutsu, no telling how many Naruto actually has. A sees the next god of shinobi before he reaches maturity and sees a way to finally eclipse his father. This could only be more textbook if the guy secretly wanted to fuck his mother, Obito explained. When he was met with silence, he saw Kakashi looking at him blankly. What? You were sounding really smart right until the end there, dummy. Shut it, Kaka team. You know I'm right. I don't read any books about men wanting to screw their mommies, and I've read some wild porn in my day. I didn't know you got it like that, Obito. Kakashi teased. Obito squawked in protest. I'm talking psychology. Ma, I don't kink shame, Obito. Stupid, one-eyed bastard. What do you want for lunch? Obito asked, heading to the kitchen. Oh, I'm not picky. Just don't put an eye out or people might wonder about your preferences. Obito said nothing, but Kakashi saw his neck muscles tense in annoyance. He didn't laugh, choosing to savor his silent victory instead. Yugito looked around the Hidden Leaf village and found nothing appealing about it in the slightest. The trees were too tall, leaves too green. The people lacked discipline, too relaxed for a military installation. A surprise attack would likely lead to a great deal of chaos. Even the air bothered her. It was too plentiful, too easy. In the mountains of Kumo the air was thinner, you fought to breathe easily, but at this level everything was simply given to you. Here we are, said the voice of Konoha's weapon. He'd led them to where they'd be staying, pointing to the single-level dwelling of wood and brick. It has all the standard amenities, functioning utilities and a fully stocked kitchen. Since you are a guest of the Uzumaki clan, it only made sense you reside on our land, he explained. Yugito detested how at ease he was around them, as if two of Kumo's best couldn't possibly pose a threat to him. He even removed the seals he'd placed on him in a show of supreme arrogance. That thought triggered the memory of her being breathlessly paralyzed in the deserts of Wind Country. She tightened her fist as she willed the memory away. As guests you'll have access to all the public areas within Konoha, and if you want to train we have private grounds, or I can arrange something if given enough notice. Of course, you are to stay away from any restricted areas and avoid general mischief. As an added gesture of goodwill, Tsunade-sama will be assigning a team of ANBU helpers for you. Helpers? Yugito asked in disbelief. Yay, if you need something and I'm unavailable they will help. We're a friendly bunch in Konoha, full of fire and all that, Naruto answered with a smile. Yugito found it offensive, like everything else connected to this village. They were hostages, pretending otherwise wouldn't fool Kiribi or her. 9-0 wants to befriend the killer. Include Miss 2 and it's a bigger thriller. Fool, ya fool, B said, slapping his bicep for emphasis. See, Kiribi gets it. Well, you two settle in, Naruto spoke and then shunshed away. The two guardians of Kumo entered the temporary dwelling, Yugito thoroughly checking the place out while Kiribi simply hopped on the couch and laid down. However, before he could fully relax he was engaged by Gyuki. What's up, Mr. 8? Feeling great? No, not at all. What do you know of that boy, Kiribi? Not much, but he respects the funky flow. What else I need to know? I spoke to the QB as we traveled back, Nibi and I both. The boy's chakra reminds me of someone that predates the shinobi era and was incredibly powerful. I also believe he has my brother's full cooperation. He's dangerous, Kiribi. Maybe so, but if we don't start none won't be none. And what's the likelihood your brother will change his course? Big bro will see the light. To protect Kumo he'll do what's right. War with the leaves ain't the vibe, so why via jutsu or weapon grippin'? New tricks up new sleeves, new beliefs is what we need. Good luck convincing A of that, because if it comes to a fight I'm not sure we can defeat QB's container. As B continued to speak to Gyuki, Naruto was conversing with his own Biju. So, how did speaking with Nibi and Hachibi go? Naruto asked as he strode along his lands. I believe my message was conveyed, but both have grown arrogant over the years with their incessant backtalk. That isn't very nice, Kurama. They are your siblings, not your subordinates, and it wouldn't hurt to be a little softer, Tobayo, Naruto lightly admonished. Kurama huffed before responding. Maybe, but they needed to understand the futility in attacking us, and if I have to be unpleasant now to avoid greater unpleasantness later, I believe that is a worthy sacrifice. Granted, Naruto said as he approached the Uzumaki manor, but I just don't want you to push them away if you don't have to. If Kiribi and Yugito try anything, then that's just what it is. Did you three discuss anything else of note? Naruto asked and heard a pause. Kurama. Single quote. There is something I need to tell you, something that insufferable Squid noticed, though I had hoped he wouldn't. Okay, what's up? Whatever it is, we'll handle it. You know of my father Hagoromo, you know he created us. What you do not know is that he had two real sons, Kurama said and was swiftly cut off. Kurama, you and the other 8 Biju are his real children. That's not decided by biology but the bonds you forged, Naruto relayed, and while Kurama would never admit it, he was incredibly pleased with those words. Fine. Biological sons, Indra and Asura. Indra was considered a genius, creating the hand signs you still use for your modern-day ninjutsu. So gifted, he started to rely solely on his own problem, not trusting or seeking the help of others. The younger brother, Asura, was a screw-up early in life, seemingly untalented in all Hagoromo tried to teach him. However, Asura was a natural in making friends and truly never met a stranger in his life. When it came time to choose a successor to Ninshu, Hagoromo gave his 2 sons a final test. Asura passed, Indra didn't. Indra became angry and resentful, instigating a feud between brothers that would go on for generations, only stopping when the 2 prime abortion candidates of Madara and Hashirama created this village. Indra was the progenitor of the Uchiha, Asura of the Senju and Uzumaki. As Indra and Asura both died before resolving their feud, it is possible each would leave an imprint on one of the descendants, Kurama explained. Like reincarnation? Naruto asked. Transmigration, as the influence of either is more like an echo than each brother fully inhabiting another body, and the effect is most evident when each transmigrant interacts with the other. Do you recall when you learned to accept your darker self? The door you couldn't open. Yes, Naruto answered. The special process the Panthers subjected him to was extremely memorable and just what he needed after the Land of Iron and his blow-up with Jiraiya. My father said the reason I couldn't open the door was because the time hadn't come and it never may. I believe that door to contain Asura's echo, and your father would be correct that it would require more to untap it than a simple ritual or training, Kurama said. Okay, so how can Hachibi tell this? And why didn't you tell me? Naruto asked out of curiosity, not anger. All of the training you have undertaken, pushing your chakra in ways none before you, have had the effect of increasing its potency and signature closer to Asura's own. Not only is it incredibly potent but in near perfect balance. That is more than a rarity in this age, Naruto. It doesn't happen. But doesn't all that disprove your own thesis? You said Asura was a screw-up, but I've been ahead of the curve since I started seriously training myself. Yes, I struggled, but I was attempting things that should have been beyond me at that age, Naruto argued. Ah, the wrinkle. You did, initially, struggle at the academy. The lectures were too long and slow, explanations simply not worded in the way you absorbed knowledge. If you had relied solely or primarily on the academy, I believe you'd only be unlocking much of your potential now, and even then, it may never reach the levels you have obtained. Hagoromo trained Asura, if not always personally. He instructed his attendants how he wished them to proceed. My father was a great man, but it was not a perfect one. Just like your academy instructors didn't understand what you needed, Hagoromo may not have understood how to truly train Asura. So, if I am this transmigrant, then everything I can do is because of that. All my work and boasts that anyone could have broken these barriers was a lie. Naruto asked, sounding genuinely disappointed. No, you fool, Kurama yelled. Your mate proves that sub-elements can be learned, or have you forgotten that? Naruto chuckled. Yay, I actually had, Tobio. Idiot. You had your advantages, of course. You were born with higher than average chakra reserves. My presence enhanced that so you could train longer. But having me meant your chakra was tilted toward yang, so all the bookwork you did was a real struggle until you started balancing your chakra. You earned your breakthroughs, Naruto. Minato, Asura, nor I can claim credit for that. Thanks, Kurama, Naruto said, and Kurama huffed in response. Naruto was learning he did that when he was moved or pleased and didn't want to admit it. So, if I am this transmigrant, that means what for Nibi and Hachibi? Indra and Asura made Madara and Hashirama look like children in comparison. For you to give Hachibi even a hint of a familiarity suggests you'd be powerful enough to defeat him and Nibi. That we were able to freely communicate means you have my full cooperation. Hachibi knows his bothersome container couldn't defeat us, and that worries him. Okay, that all makes sense, but you still haven't explained why you didn't tell me you suspected this, Naruto reminded the Biju. It didn't seem relevant. If you were Asura's transmigrant, you demonstrated you couldn't access whatever lay within you, and I have no idea how to either. Also, you had no relationship with any of the existing Uchiha, so the rivalry was either settled with Madara and Hashirama, as who else could it have been, so there was nothing to look out for, or something veered you off the course and it is still moot. So, You're saying there's a reality where I'm super obsessed with Sasuke or some other Uchiha instead of being mind-blowingly awesome. That would have been a waste. If that's how you choose to interpret that, I won't argue, but I will never agree with it either, Kurama retorted. You know you love me, Kurama, Naruto teased but continued before the fox could get indignant. I do understand why you never told me, while interesting it isn't the most actionable of intel. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, the Crimson Maelstrom, and I chart my own path. Sure you do, Tomato Head, Kurama teased back, knowing it'd make his idiot container irate. Why you? Take that back or I'll come into the seal and beat your whole ass, Databio. I'd like to see you try, Pipsqueak. I'll use you as a chew toy, Kurama barked. Kakuku, having a private conversation, Naruto-kun. Orochi said from behind. Naruto turned toward with a beaming smile. He'd been so wrapped up with talking to Kurama he'd stopped at the door and stopped fully paying attention to his surroundings. Something like that, he answered before thinking, we'll finish this little exchange later, Kurama. I look forward to it, whelp, Kurama replied before going silent. The discussion with his lifelong companion ended. Naruto scooped Orochi in his arms and gave her a kiss. Hey, he greeted as he let go of her and opened the door, I wasn't expecting to see you so soon. Well, we need to talk, do we not? Orochi asked rhetorically. Naruto nodded and led her to the front room. The two snuggled up on the couch, a habit of theirs. Naruto sat in silence as he watched Orochi had a pen and pad, having seemingly materialized from nowhere. Okay, a few things. 1. I'll be showing soon enough, and if anyone tries to touch my belly I'll kill them, she explained. Could I negotiate you down to a maiming? Maybe a severe beating. I'll kill them, Naruto-kun, so you'll have to see to their protection if you care to. Secondly, all of my lab equipment is at my manor, but I'd presumably be spending a majority of my downtime here. I can run some tunnels to your labs or dedicate some clones to building you some labs here, Naruto said. An addendum, our housing situation. We have two. I doubt many people want to buy mine and I'm not keen on selling it. Aha, well, and this is wholly dependent on you, but there can traditionally only be one heir. Should we have more than one child, the second-born might like to have their own space to inherit. Like hey, not the heir but here's a big-ass house. Kakuku, trying to leave me barefoot and in the kitchen, Naruto-kun. I never knew that was your type. I think you'd agree I do some of my better work in the kitchen, Orochi-chan, Naruto responded. Indeed, but regardless, I won't become an Uzumaki baby mill. Speaking of, how many kids do you want? Orochi asked and felt Naruto shrugged. Honestly, I don't have a number in mind as I didn't think we could have one. So, I don't know. That surprised the Snake Sannin. But you've wanted a family, why didn't you think I'd figure out a solution? Because not having children wasn't a problem, and knowing your age I'd accepted being with you presented some realities. It just wasn't some grand sacrifice. I could take on students, adopt or whatever else. And while I am so excited we are having a child together, it was never a deal breaker. I want you, Orochi-chan. We could have figured everything else out when the time came. Naruto was awarded a quick kiss on the cheek for his answer, it happening so fast and going unacknowledged that he could have been forgiven for doubting it happened. I would like some yuzu trees. I like the fruit and the smell they give off. My feet get cold at night, I will be putting them on or under you for additional warmth and expect no complaints. Anko and I have tea twice a week, and once you let her in your home she'll be impossible to get rid of. Treat her kindly. Those are doable. Anything else? Naruto asked. I'm sure there will be, but we'll have a lifetime to figure them out, Orochi said as she retrieved the ring box from inside of kimono, opened it, and slipped the ring on. I look forward to it, Naruto said, gently pulling his wife to be closer. The two shared a quiet moment, each looking forward to their future together. The moment ended when Orochi felt a rumble in Naruto's chest and heard a chuckle. She turned to her fiancé and saw him smiling brightly. Since you said yes, I guess it is time to pay your bride price, Naruto observed. Not even the daimyo still do that, Naruto-kun, besides, I don't think you have enough to afford me. Well, let's call it an engagement present then, he said as he retrieved a scroll from his kunai holster. Naruto unfurled the scroll and unsealed a single item. He placed it in Orochi's hand and laughed at her confusion. A water balloon? She asked in disbelief. This is only step one, Orochi-chan. This is a gift, but it's one you have to earn. However, once you do you'll have this, Naruto said as he formed a Rasengan in his hand. As soon as Naruto ended the jutsu he was mounted, Orochi's tongue invading his mouth and her hands in his sanguine locks. She felt herself being pulled closer as Naruto wrapped his arms around her slender frame. "UW, get a room," said a deep voice from an entryway. The newly engaged couple broke apart, though Orochi never left Naruto's lap as she glared at her fellow Sannin. "Technically, Jiraiya, every damn room in this house is my room," Naruto said. "Yay, whatever. Look, I didn't scar my psyche with the sight of you with her, but your Nara teammate is coming to the door." A jittery and fast knock was heard just as Jiraiya announced Shikamaru's arrival. "Okay, that's weird. I'm probably going to have to go," Naruto said while gazing up at his wife-to-be. "Can we continue this later?" She nodded as she slid off his lap and another vigorous knock was heard. "Jiraiya, can you walk her through the first step of learning the Rasengan, please?" Naruto requested, and to Orochi's surprise Jiraiya didn't refuse. "You move faster than even your father, and he wanted to marry Kushina after their first date," Jiraiya replied wistfully. Naruto shot him a smile before saying, "Counterclockwise, Jiraiya," and then departed. "Well, are we doing this now?" Jiraiya asked with zero enthusiasm. What did Naruto-kun mean by counterclockwise? "It's the orientation of your chakra. When you start forming the Rasengan it should go counterclockwise," Jiraiya explained. How could he know that? Easiest way to check is to see the direction the hair grows at the crown of your head. Naruto see the top of your head a lot, Orochi? Jiraiya asked suggestively. "Infinitely more than you've ever seen Tsunade's," Orochi shot back. Knowing he'd lost this one. "Troublesome," Shikamaru said when his third attempt at knocking was interrupted by Naruto storming out of the door. "What's up?" Naruto asked. "Kurenai-sensei is in the hospital, it's time," Shikamaru explained. He then felt Naruto grab onto his shoulder and instantly found himself in front of the hospital. "That was weird," the Nara said. Naruto rolled his eyes at his friend as the two raced to the maternity ward. Upon arrival Naruto noticed he was the last one there and was thankful he'd managed to make it back today. Team Asuma, Shino, Hiruzen and Anko had taken seats in the waiting room and Naruto grabbed an empty one by the aberrame. "Naruto," Shino greeted. "Shino," he greeted back. After that, Naruto couldn't really recall too much about any other conversations as they all waited for news. He wondered how Asuma was managing and if he'd be a good, supportive partner for Orochi-chan. As he sat in the waiting room, much of pending changes to his life were starting to feel more real. He was going to be a husband and a father soon. He wasn't scared, which surprised him. Not that he felt ready, but he had so many people to lean on for support that he was confident he could manage. A little over an hour later and Asuma returned to the waiting room to announce the arrival of Mirai Sarutobi. It was another 20 minutes before the young men of Team Kurenai were allowed to see their sensei and her newborn. As they were ushered into the room, setting eyes on a clearly tired and elated Kurenai holding onto her little girl, it was Shino that spoke what they all noticed. "She bears a striking resemblance to you, sensei." "I suppose so, but I see a lot of Asuma in her, too," Kurenai replied softly. "I'm glad all three of you could be here for this new addition to our family. When I see the three of you, there are so many characteristics of yourselves I hope you can impart on Mirai-chan. Asuma and I debated back and forth, but I couldn't pick between you three, so I hope you'd be fine splitting duties as Mirai's godfathers." "Of course, sensei," Naruto answered with a beaming smile. "It would only be right," Shino said. "It wouldn't be troublesome," Shikamaru agreed. "Excellent. I know with the three of you helping to watch over her she'll be a very happy and well-protected little girl. Yay. We'll have her whipping S-rank genjutsu before she leaves the academy." "Uzumaki Naruto, you will not teach Mirai-chan any S-rank techniques before she becomes a chunin, do you understand me?" "What if it's a light S-rank? Like barely S-rank? Do you understand me?" "Yes, sensei," he replied as his two teammates laughed at him. "Don't you two laugh, I expect restraint from each of you as well. No advanced tracking and assassination techniques, Shino. But they will be incredibly useful, why? Don't care, wait until she's out of the academy. And Shikamaru. What could I possibly do? Oh, I see how you manipulated Choji and Ino to get them into shape. No neuro-linguistic programming until I say otherwise. What a drag," Shikamaru said but relented under the stern glare of his sensei. Fine, I won't, but you have to admit of the three of us, Naruto was the one to most likely teach her something inappropriate. Affirmative, Shino agreed. Well, of course, Kurenai added, causing a depression cloud to form over Naruto's head. I'm not that bad, he whined, which caused another round of laughter. Naruto soon joined in, soaking up this perfect moment, hoping it'd last. Zetsu waited for his potential new tool. If it were hot or cold, the being couldn't tell, didn't care. He was the divine will of Kaguya, her true child, and his only goal was to facilitate her return. He thought turning the two sons of Hagoromo against each other would be something she'd approve of. He thought tempting Indra to give in to his darkness would be how the boy developed his own Rinnegan. He'd been wrong. And in his error, in his short-sightedness, he delayed the return of his mother. Madara showed him, the Rinnegan needed both halves of the sage's lineage and likely the strongest or purest expressions available. The Senju were all but dead, same for the Uchiha. Nagato was a powerful Uzumaki, the only reason he managed to wield those eyes, but said eyes were sealed away. Zetsu was in real danger of failing his mother. He suspected he needed not only Sasuke but the container of the Kyuubi and someone with the medical knowledge to transplant the DNA of the one into the other. He'd ordered Shino to kill the two boys, never expecting the man to succeed. His hope had been to weaken them so he could abduct them, but Shino had proven wholly useless. So, now he planned to tempt one more frail being to do his bidding. It was so easy. These humans could play at being high-minded, but in the end, it was their desires that ruled them. If he knew what they wanted, getting them to act as he wished was child's play. An entire culture built on deception and cunning, and yet they could be swayed by such meager ends. Zetsu didn't react when he heard the grass rustle, he'd sensed the approaching shinobi. The moonlight formed a glint on his eyeglasses as he removed the hood from his cloak. Zetsu, I presume, the smug boy asked. Kabuto Yakushi, Zetsu acknowledged. Kaguya's will and Orochimaru's former top spy stared at each other for several moments, neither wanting to cede the smallest advantage to the other. Kabuto was the one to break the silence. You were very discreet in your request I meet you, but I fail to see why you'd bother. I was ordered to do one thing and your head gets me back to where I want to be. Does it? Zetsu asked. Even if you and your group could defeat me, I think you'd find some surprising changes once you return to Konoha. And as long as Uzumaki Naruto exists, you'll never have your Orochimaru back, she'll always be his. Zetsu felt the anger well up in the boy, being reminded of the person he surely hated most in the world. And what could you possibly do about that? Or should I be asking what I'd need to do to receive your aid? What I want is very simple. I need a living tissue sample from Uzumaki Naruto implanted into Uchiha Sasuke and time to oversee the effects of said procedure. To accomplish that and remove the Uzumaki permanently, I would give you the means. The boy may be powerful for his age, for this age, but he is nothing compared to the legends of the past. Do you know the Edo Tensei, Kabuto? Yes. Orochimaru allowed me to learn a version of it. Kabuto did not take comfort in Zetsu's smile as the man formed the ram sign and tree roots emerged from the ground, carrying with them a casket. Zetsu calmly walked over to the casket and opened it. Kabuto looked unimpressed at the fossil. And who might this be? The real Uchiha Madara, Zetsu informed the spy. Kabuto looked at Zetsu in disbelief. But it is, Zetsu reassured the medic. Agree to work with me and I will give you Madara himself, and with him, under your control, you will not fail to kill the Uzumaki. What do you say? Zetsu asked but assumed the answer was obvious. All this for me just so you can get Uchiha Sasuke-kun. Seems pretty suspicious, Zetsu-san. There's also the problem of my not having a reason to return to Konoha nor having any information on Sasuke's mission assignments. I'm sorry, Kabuto, I assumed you were clever. If entering into your own village and abducting one Junin is too difficult for you, then I've come to the wrong person, Zetsu responded, adding some menace to his voice. Now, threats are unneeded. I'd be happy to help and rid myself of that red-haired blight, Kabuto said, adjusting his glasses. Zetsu looked upon the boy smugly as he'd never get to enjoy whatever small victory he claimed over the Uzumaki. As soon as the procedure was complete, he'd eliminate Kabuto. Good. Since your squad is so diligently tracking me, I will lead you back to Konoha. I expect you to take care of the rest. Zetsu and Madara's corpse sank into the ground without further word. Kabuto wasn't surprised the former Akatsuki didn't hand over Madara just yet. The medic didn't mind, he was patient. He'd get his hands on the legendary Uchiha and then use the man to remove Zetsu and Naruto. He knew Orochimaru would be furious, at first, but he'd make her see reason, make her see how far she'd strayed from her true self, and then things would return to normal. It was just a matter of time. Understand? Ace stated, I don't want to send you. I don't trust you, not really. Konoha has my brother because of you, but Onoki can sense no dissension within our ranks, and with Dodai gone, you are all I have. I understand, Darui replied, posture rigid and eyes focused. Any allowance of informality was gone, on the strictest of etiquette was permitted. It was early yet, not even errant rays of sunlight could be seen. Darui was alert and, more importantly, he welcomed the opportunity to leave. She and he had explained themselves as well as they could. A's ambush failed and they needed to fall back. Even with Kiribi and Yugito there, those two couldn't be expected to fight two-thirds of the Sannin, Hitaki Kakashi, Uzumaki Naruto and, potentially, Gaara of the desert in the desert. Darui even made the point that if Kiribi thought the AB tandem could have won, he wouldn't have sacrificed himself. A would hear nothing of it. The Raikage swore Kiribi was just attempting to avoid a fight, as was his way. That while formidable, the Konoha contingent would not have been enough, nor would the boy cage that ruled over sooner. He swelled with pride and reeked of liquor when he stated that whatever advantage they had, none could overcome his lightning armor. Darui remarked that Asama never believed that lone technique made him invincible. A lost it and punched through a wall, narrowly missing Daru's head. The two Kumo elites looked at each other, A in rage and Darui nearing anger himself. He was loyal, but he was no coward and would not accept any and all treatment from A. He lived for Kumo, he'd die for Kumo, but before anything, he was a man. Not some boy, not a sycophant, but man, and he wouldn't carry it any other way. Mabui intervened before the situation could become unsalvageable, and Darui hadn't spoken to the Raikage again until this briefing. You are expected to arrive within 5 days and are to stay for no longer than a week. I expect you to be able to tell whether Onoki is serious or not. Promise him nothing and report everything to me upon your return. Do not fail me. Dismissed, A bellowed. Darui departed silently. Clanging and furious movement could be heard as a trio of blurs engaged in a violent exchange of weapons. After the last attack, two broke away from one, looking on at their mutual opponent. Shikamaru held his tanto in a reverse grip, knees slightly bent, prepared to move at the smallest provocation. Shino, dual Seius at the ready, was a mere foot apart, primed for the same. Naruto looked at his two teammates with a smile as he spun his pair of metal nunchaku. They were starting to breathe a little heavy, but it had been a good showing and he wouldn't let up. He appeared in front of Shino with an impressive display of pure speed and began attacking. Clang, clang, swoosh, clang. The sounds went as the Aburame air blocked, deflected and dodged. Shikamaru came into Naruto's blind side, ruthlessly slashing at his neck, but his progress was ended by Naruto's well-timed back kick. Planting the kicking foot, Naruto rotated as to avoid Shino's dual thrust and retaliated with more swings, none hitting the mark. Having both assailants in his view, Naruto brought an end of each nunchaku together and with a concentration of his chakra transformed them into a short spear. Shino. Shikamaru spoke. Yes, Shikamaru. Does it offend you any that we're being pushed this hard by a shadow clone and Naruto is just using said clone to get some training with his Koten? Yes does. Why? Because the shadow clone, by its very nature, is a fraction of its creator's overall ability and power. Also, why should he get to spend our team training time with his girlfriend? Fiancé. While we're over here with this troublesome clone. Long distance getting to you, Shikamaru? Shino asked, and Shikamaru could hear the teasing in his voice even if it didn't change in the slightest. Cold showers are a drag, Shikamaru responded as he hadn't seen Temari in weeks. I wouldn't know, Shino bragged. I hate you both. Oi. Less talking, more fighting, the real Naruto said as he sat under a shady tree, Orochimaru between his legs as she attempted to pop the water balloon. Shika and Shino both responded with a single finger hand gesture, and Naruto delighted in his clone continuing his assault. He returned his attention to his betrothed as she focused intensely on the water balloon in her right hand. Orochi-chan, I'm getting concerned you've slipped past concentration and ran straight into existential contemplation on the nature of that water balloon, he said in jest. She released a small laugh in return. Maybe so, this jutsu is vexing. It should be simple, and for some reason even knowing what I should do it just isn't coming to me. You're likely outsmarting yourself, Naruto suggested as he thought back to her progress or lack thereof. Since you have some notion of what should be done, you're trying to do it all at once. Basically, your genius brain is making this harder for you. Be more like Jiraiya, Naruto observed and then advised. Oh my, Naruto-kun, right in front of your teammates. Kinky boy, she purred and felt something move against her back. That is not what I meant, Tobio, Naruto defended. He briefly looked back to his friends and clone, seeing his Bunshin had gone from the short spear to a Kusarigama as it fought only Shino, Shika having tapped out. Isn't it? She asked. Is my wearing this ring not enough? Must you claim me in front of an audience, you brute? She said as she gently grinded against him. I give, you win, Naruto conceded, not wanting her to escalate things. Kikuku, of course I do, the future Uzumaki said as she watched the exchange between Team Kurenai. It made her curious. When did you learn those weapon forms, Naruto-kun? Jiraiya is serviceable with them, but that's about it. The scroll Hashirama-sama left me had a lot of forms and styles for various weapons. Once I learned the steel release Jiraiya and I agreed it made sense to increase my proficiency in more than just sword types. The two continued to chat away until Tayuya approached them at a clipped pace, gaining the notice of Shika and Shino as well. Orochimaru-sama, you're needed at the Hokage Tower, Tayuya announced but said no more. Orochimaru kissed Naruto's cheek and departed, Tayuya close behind. When the pair were far enough away, Orochimaru questioned her subordinate. What else did you have to tell me, Tayuya-chan? Kimimaro and company have returned, all but Kabuto are at your manor. Kabuto was taken to the Hokage by a squad of ANBU, the Uzumaki Genjutsu mistress relayed. You join the boys, I'll go have a word with Kabuto-kun, Orochi said, voice monotone. Hi. Tayuya obeyed and shunshin to her destination. Neither she nor Orochi noticed the single Kikaichu depart from Tayuya's hair. Shino's trusted ally soon returned to his host's body, causing Shino to call a stop to the spar. Normally the return of an ally would be welcomed but offer little in the way of intelligence. But Team Kurenai didn't deal in normal. Maybe may have thought Kurenai was a poor match for her students, but they'd be completely wrong. Outside of each boy learning to be adept trackers, intelligence gathers and some of the best genjutsu users in the village, they all took to learning pure yin release and infusing it into their arsenal. For Shikamaru, it made his shadow-based jutsu stronger than any of his clan save, possibly, his father, and he'd soon surpass the Junin commander. He also had more variations than anyone, his shadow seemingly coming to life to haunt his enemies. Naruto, already having overachieved at being able to wield genjutsu, wanted to manage to infuse it into his elemental ninjutsu. He'd succeeded at creating a few techniques that could attack while also ensnaring the enemy. He also uses it to mask his summoning jutsu, his enemies never truly knowing how many panthers he calls forth at any one time. Like the rest of his team, Shino trained and excelled in genjutsu. Like Shikamaru, he managed to infuse the yin release into his family's signature abilities, but not to attack but as a method of intelligence gathering. Limited in what they could record, he had a section of specialized Kikaichu that could replay overheard conversations. His facility with them only grew during his time as a hunter nin, missing ninja failing to ambush or evade the Abare mare. And now one of those special, little bugs was revealing something of great importance. Naruto had grown and matured during his time away. He'd really taken much of Jiraiya's philosophies to heart, even if he didn't wholly agree. He believed in peace, but a peace that protected the weak from the strong. He believed that revenge was an oft futile act that didn't balance the scales nor sated the emotional needs of the person seeking it. He was not as angry, not as quick to violence now as he was then, partially because his level of skill and power demanded control and discernment. Kabuto is back, Shino informed Shika and Naruto. With all his growth, he was not a pacifist nor a saint. Anyone that proved to be a threat could be removed, and Kabuto had tried to kill him and his team. By itself, that earned Kabuto a slot on Naruto's kill list. But now that he knows Orochi is pregnant, the medic became a problem in need of a solution. He dies today, Naruto said. He's in the Hokage's custody, Shino pointed out. Today, Naruto reiterated. He saw the looks his friends shot him. Looks that begged for an explanation. Naruto sighed before answering. Orochi's pregnant, he said. He smirked a little as both concealed their surprise well, likely focusing on the issue at hand. Naruto ran his fingers through his hair. Chakra is a funny thing. Your initial capacities are like any other genetic predisposition, given to you by your parents. But chakra can change, expand, strengthen over time, so in that way he can act as something akin to an environmental factor. Your chakra can affect how your genes express themselves. It is an epigenetic factor, Naruto explained, and saw that each was still with him. He'd honestly hadn't known this until Tsunade started training him on medical ninjutsu, as she refused to do things halfway. My child will be the child of a Sannin and a lifelong Jinchuriki Uzumaki who has spent a solid decade increasing the potency and amount of his chakra. Massive reserves, Shikamaru said. Yes, Kyubi says I'm nearing tailed best level reserves on my own now that I no longer have to hold his chakra back. Well, when baby forms it takes more than just nutrients from mom. Even as a Sannin, it is likely Orochimaru's own chakra system will be strained and impacted by the unique circumstances of his or her conception, Shino concluded. Troublesome. At some point, she's going to be weakened. Chakra control shot, maybe not consistently, but that almost makes it worse. Reserves also diminished to go the most troublesome fetus in history. Kabuto would probably make another attempt on your life first, but if he believes he can't get to you, he'll target the baby. Shikamaru concluded. Kabuto dies today, Naruto reiterated. Agreed, affirmative, his teammates said without hesitation. Shikamaru then added, snatching him from the Hokage and therefore ANBU won't be easy. We have to at least try to get away with it. We'd also have to talk to Kurenai-sensei, why? Even if purely ceremonial, she is still our squad leader and deserves to know, be allowed to weigh in. I agree, besides I may have a plan, but I'd need Kurenai-sensei's help. What plan? Shikamaru asked. Singing in the rain, Naruto said. Ambitious, was the Nara's reply. Village-wide, Shino asked. And followed up, can you handle that? For my future wife and child. Yes. Besides, you two would have the hard part. We'd only have one go at this, and if we fail we are so screwed, Shikamaru expressed. Guys, if this is too much I will sincerely understand. Just tell me now and I'll handle it. Honest. No, we will undertake this as a team, but we should be aware of the consequences. Some will be present even should we succeeded, Shino explained. We'll need 2 messenger summons. I have everything else on me, said Shikamaru. Same, Shino added. Naruto nodded and then summoned 2 panther cubs. His teammates informed the little ones of their tasks and they took off. The 3 members of Team Kurenai then made their way to Kurenai's. Kabuto sat in the armless chair, Hokage in front of him, Toad Sage behind, and a team of hidden ANBU ready to strike at a moment's notice. Objectively, his situation was precarious, but as a former spy, he'd gotten used to it, learned to manage the anxiety before it became full-blown panic. They had yet to ask him a question, which meant they were awaiting the arrival of someone else. When the door opened behind him, before he even heard her trademark laugh, he just knew who it was. Kikuku, I certainly was not expecting to see you today, Kabuto-kun, she said as she walked past her former second-in-command. Kabuto surveyed her in but a glimpse. It was short, but he'd seen all he needed to. The ostentatious ring glinting in the light, minor, yet significant, body changes that could only mean one thing. She was engaged, possibly married, and pregnant for that lowly, childish Uzumaki. He fought to remain still, forced his body not to adjust his glasses in a show of his seething rage. She was capable of so much, meant for more, and she settled for that, worm. A lower life form, a hammer only capable of bludgeoning things. His mistress found that Uzumaki, back always straight, an arrogant smile that suggested he was in on some secret shared by the universe. A boy. She changed for a boy like some fangirl. Most powerful and feared woman in the shinobi nations, and she'd rather play house with a boy. It was almost too much, discipline and fear of death be damned. She needed to see, needed to be called into account for how far she'd fallen. What was it about the Uzumaki that made him so impressive to her? While he may have had some talent, he was just as babied and protected as every other leaf brat blessed to walk in the light. Because he was a good fighter. So were a lot of people. That he had some jutsu. So what? How many jutsu from the same elemental do you need? What did Naruto Uzumaki have that he, Kabuto, did not? What was so special about this boy, a boy, that it made the person he respected most in the world forget herself and forget him? What? Kabuto, Tsunade spoke, getting the medic's attention. Yes, Tsunade-sama, he replied, trying to calm himself as he felt that old blood stirring. He needed to get out of here and complete his deal with Zetsu. Why are you here? Is Zetsu dead? No, he said. Kikuku, and yet, you dare return. How brave of you, Orochi quipped. Zetsu had proven most elusive. This is true, but the reason I returned is he made me an offer. He wants me to abduct Uchiha Sasuke. In return, he offered to kill Naruto, believing that is something I want, Kabuto said, knowing he had to give most of the truth for any of this to work. If Zetsu were capable of killing Naruto, why wouldn't he abduct Sasuke by himself? Tsunade asked, and Kabuto cursed her internally. Dealing with lesser minds had hampered his game. I don't know, Hokage-sama. He wasn't long on details, he seemed ready to attack me should I have given him reason to doubt me. Tsunade turned her chair to stare out the window. Like her two teammates, she was digesting what Kabuto had reported. She mulled the swift change in weather as storm clouds appear to gather in the once cloudless sky. The fifth Hokage suspected Kabuto was holding something back, something important. The question was, could they use him, uncover his plot and neutralize him before he had a chance to strike or go to ground? Should she just execute him now? One swift punch would do it. As the raindrops started to fall and the sounds and smells of the storm filled her office, Tsunade cursed Hiruzen for leaving her with this mess. He should have killed the boy and been done with it. Instead, he all but pardoned the traitor and used him as a pawn, and since that was one of his last official acts, Tsunade couldn't legally kill him for something her predecessor had adjudicate. Just another corner of Sensei's cluster of pronounced fuckery left on her desk like an errant shit she was expected to clean up. The Godine closed her eyes, the steady pattern of the rain helping her think. She wanted to get rid of the last of the Akatsuki, even Obito saying Zetsu was a danger with his intelligence-gathering abilities. The Uchiha had given as much information as he could on the thing, as it was not a living person. When Obito said it was Madara's will manifested, Naruto immediately called bullshit. Tsunade smiled as she recalled her surrogate nephew going into lecture mode about yin tethers and how if Zetsu were Madara's will, Madara would have to be alive or Zetsu would have ceased to exist. Obito reassured them Madara was definitely dead, so that meant Zetsu had been convincing and conniving enough to even trick that man. Sneaking up on him was almost impossible. Kabuto confirmed what Obito reported about the plant thing's sensory abilities. Obito didn't know much about his combat prowess but suspected he could hold his own against most ninja. Zetsu presented the worst kind of threat, a known unknown. It made plotting and planning to remove the thing mind-numbingly difficult. This meant Kabuto's triple agent routine might be the best bet. She'd have to get Sasuke in on the plan, maybe have Naruto give him a Hiraishin kunai so the two boys could just kill or seal the thing. Tsunade turned around, decision having been made. She then proceeded to drill down a plan to trap the last Akatsuki member. Again and again, and again. The details never changed, but no one in the room seemed to notice, except Jiraiya. The Toad Sage had been having this inkling, this instinct that something wasn't right. Or better stated, off balance. He couldn't put his finger on it, so he walked to and sat in the window. For some reason, the storm reverberated with him, but he felt equally pulled to and away from it, feeling the need to go over Tsunade's plan again. Forcing himself to focus on the rainfall, he finally pinpointed the abnormality. The rain was brimming with senjutsu chakra, which meant it wasn't natural. Jiraiya hastily threw up a barrier meant to shield all senses within it. Kai. Jiraiya called out as he disrupted his chakra and immediately noticed Tsunade and Orochimaru were looking at and interacting with an empty chair. Kabuto was gone. He broke each one out of the genjutsu and her ANBU guard. What the hell, Jiraiya? Tsunade yelled. She was the world's best medic, as in touch with her chakra flow as anyone, so putting her under a genjutsu was no small feat. Kabuto is gone, don't know for how long, and the only thing preventing us from falling into the same genjutsu is this barrier, Jiraiya explained. The storm. Orochi concluded, briefly recalling it starting but paying it no more attention. However now, thanks to the barrier, she couldn't sense any part of it. Yes. Did Naruto know Kabuto was back? This is his technique, he said. I didn't tell him, but that is clearly irrelevant and we're wasting time. He didn't take Kabuto to give him a lecture, Orochi responded. I need to go, Jiraiya said as he performed the summoning jutsu, the results surprising his teammates. Pa, I'm sorry to be short, but I need to enter Sage mode and stop Naruto. Both toads hop on his shoulders, but it didn't stop Shima from asking, what is Naruto-chan going to do, Jiraiya boy? Remove a threat to his family. Unfortunately, that threat is a village asset. Pa nodded sagely. Naruto-chan prefers decisive action. He's like Minato-chan in that way. Yay, he's a chip off the old block, which is why we can't delay. The two sages focused and balanced the natural energy for Jiraiya. Now looking very toad-like, he turned to Tsunade and said, I can control this barrier remotely, so when it drops send every ANBU you can. Jiraiya hopped out the window, his heightened senses alerting him to two Narutos, one cloaked under a genjutsu by Kurenai and the other with his teammates on the Nara lands. He'd go there and draw the real one, who he assumed to be with Kurenai, to him. As he dashed toward his destination he ignored that he hadn't sensed Kabuto. Earlier before Jiraiya was making a mad dash toward the members of Team Kurenai, the young men were in their sensei's house, Shino holding Mirai and Shikamaru smirking as Naruto got several bonks on the head. After 3, Kurenai hugged her problem child. Why the reaction? Like Shino and Shikamaru, Naruto informed Kurenai Orochi and he were engaged but didn't mention she was pregnant. That, however, was not the cause of her violent reaction but his reasoning of withholding the news to not overshadow Mirai's arrival. Kurenai thought it was stupid as they could all use more joy. Though she did instill a new team rule of no children until they were S-class ninja or 20 years old. When Naruto suggested he could get them to S-class in 6 months of dedicated training, both intended victims were vehement in their refusal. Seeing Naruto look so smug, she bonked him again and said that was for putting a shadow on her. She'd long suspected it, but only recently had she caught Majila. The unofficial 5th member of the team reassured Kurenai she was there to observe but not report. Kurenai then took the time to introduce the much larger panther to her daughter. Now, the team was out back as they'd explained the dilemma and plan to Kurenai. She wasn't enthusiastic but agreed to aid them. She watched Naruto create a shadow clone and then sit down with his legs crossed. She cloaked the entire team, hiding their presence just before Naruto became engulfed in golden Biju chakra. A tail went to Kurenai, Shino, and Shikamaru giving him the version 1 Biju cloak. It was the only way to shield them from his jutsu while they were on the move. With the aid of Kurama, Naruto was already pulling in and balancing the natural energy with his chakra, soon the horizontal bar pupil overlaid the vertical slits. Okay, walk us through this jutsu one more time, Naruto, Kurenai requested. It starts with the typhoon release. With sage-infused Biju chakra I can generate a village-wide storm. Nagato had something similar in ANBU going constantly and used it as a sensory jutsu. The genjutsual overlay happens in conjunction, meaning it is laced in the very clouds and permeates every sensation the storm produces: sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. Pure hypnosis, Kurenai said, sincerely impressed. Yes, but the downsides are several. Even for me, this is chakra intensive. I can't move while using it and it generates a good deal of mental strain because of the number of people I'm affecting. It also takes over 100 hand signs, Naruto explained. It's good you know its limitations. Once the rain really starts coming down you too get a move 1. Kyuubi's chakra protects you but you'll still be coated in rain, meaning anyone who hadn't been affected will be should they see you. Seeing his teammates nod, Naruto closes his eyes to focus. He began the long chain of hand signs, performing each one with the skill befitting a ninjutsu specialist. The Uzumaki increased his speed as he went through, hands moving faster near the end compared to the beginning. The effects could be seen instantaneously, as the clouds started to form before he was even half done. 3/4 finished and the first drops started to fall, the amount and rate of rainfall increasing as Naruto neared completion. On the last sign, Naruto thought, Sage Art, Kyoka Sugutsu, and Konoha was blanketed in a sudden storm but almost none sensed anything was askew. Shino and Shika shunshined away, arriving just a short distance from the Hokage Tower. The Nara could tell no one saw them. It was impressive but he had no time to marvel. Running to the tower, they post outside the window and overhear the conversation. Patiently, they waited and when they heard the loop restart, the heirs slipped into the office and grabbed Kabuto, Shino knocking him unconscious. It was surreal to see the 3 Sannin continue to speak to someone that wasn't conscious nor would be there soon. Draped over his shoulder, Shino and Shikamaru made their way to the Nara forests, where Naruto's shadow clone was awaiting them. Once they made it to the final destination, Naruto erected a sensory barrier and then restrained Kabuto with steel chains. Once set, he broke Kabuto free of the illusion and the other two lost their Biju cloak. The medic blinked, clearly confused as to where he was and how he got there, but once he laid eyes on Naruto he tried to break free, desire to kill him overriding any other concern. A startlingly strong punch to the jaw settled Kabuto down, nearly concussing him. We don't have a lot of time, so this isn't going to be a whole thing. You're about to die, make whatever peace you can. Or don't, I don't care. Shika, you're up, Naruto said. Shikamaru approached the medic with some powder in a vial. He poured into his hands. Once Shikamaru was right in front of the bound Kabuto, he blew the substance in Kabuto's face, forcing the spy of Oto to ingest it. At first, Kabuto felt nothing, but soon he noticed an elevated heart rate and the sensation that time had slowed considerably. He watched the aberrame approach him and it felt like it took hours when logically he knew that to be impossible. Said shinobi placed one finger near Kabuto's hairline. Kabuto couldn't see but felt an insect climb onto him. Then he felt pain. That type of beetle burrows. Right now, it's doing that to your skull and will continue until it eats through your brain. The torture he was experiencing made writhe against his bindings, but he could only haplessly flail. It was as if he was feeling each bite in its greatest detail, over and over again. So blinded by pain, Kabuto didn't realize Naruto had returned until the Uzumaki yanked him up by the hair so they were eye to eye. He watched Naruto go through a chain of hand signs before he, Kabuto, was slapped with an open palm in his chest. The newest sensation felt like a small tug, something pulling him to the ground. The jutsu I just performed, it's a Jiten technique I haven't named yet, but you're going to be pulled toward the core of the planet. Now luckily for you, you merge with the earth, so it isn't that different from Doton techniques that allow underground movement. The difference, however, is that you have no control over how far and how fast you sink. There is also the reality the jutsu will run out of chakra eventually and then you will be crushed instantly. As Kabuto was forcibly lowered into his final resting place, he could barely form a coherent thought. Knowing he was going to die but experiencing it so slowly was peeling away the layers of his sanity. He tried to scream but felt a strong hand grip his jaw, painfully. I've taken your life, Kabuto, do not give me your dignity as well, the Uzumaki advised. Even as slowly as the words came out, Kabuto could still see the value of them. No, he would not give this boy his dignity. While fast for them, for Kabuto finally being subterranean took a lifetime. He did not know how far he sank, could not tell how deeply the insect had burrowed into his skull, but when the jutsu finally ended he welcomed death, the pressure of the interior levels of the planet crushing him instantly. Sometime after their successful assassination, the real Naruto arrived, having ended his jutsu and dispelling the clone. Jiraiya is on his way, he explained. He was out of Kurama and Sage mode, both having done much to alleviate his headache, but the mental strain was still there, just lightened. Jiraiya landed hard, ma and pa on his shoulders. Naruto rolled his eyes, his godfather was being extra. Where his Kabuto? Jiraiya asked, but there was a clear demand in his tone. Who's that? Shika asked. That medic that wished he was Orochi-chan's cuckold, Naruto explained before remembering his manners. Hi Granny and Grandpa Sage, he called out as he waved. Hi, Naruto-chan, Shima responded while also waving. He sounds like a bitch boy. We don't associate with them, Shino explained, getting back to the topic at hand. Why? Well, that should be self-evident. Are you three having fun? Because pretty soon there's going to be several squads of ANBU here to take you into custody and they won't be nice about it. I'd imagine they'd be a little mannerable, as I can get rude, too. Really, Naruto? How's the headache? You probably couldn't fight a wet paper bag, Jiraiya challenged. PFF'd, don't start talking slick because you're in Sage mode, shitty pervert, Naruto warned. Naruto-chan, language. You are a proud toad summoner and will comport yourself thusly, Shima lambasted. That'd carry more weight if the boy wasn't right about Jiraiya's perversions, Fukasaku observed. He's a lost cause, but Naruto-chan can still be set straight. Minato-chan never used bad language. As the two toads bickered, much to Jiraiya's embarrassment, Shino leaned over to Naruto and said, she is aware your father was the greatest mass murderer the shinobi villages have ever produced, yes. I'm sure she's heard, Shino, Naruto said, dryly. Then why? It's not even worth trying to explain. I've just learned to accept it. As the most relaxed standoff in history continued, the surrounded forests were filled with a series of swooshes and gently ruffled trees. The ANBU had arrived and hurriedly surrounded Team Kurenai, weapons drawn. Naruto, Looking down and holding his head asked Shika, how many you count? At least 24, wouldn't be surprised if it were double that. Man, we should kick their asses just because, Naruto said casually, as if the presence of the village's elite forces were of no great concern. Do not, I repeat, do not choose right now to show how gallingly troublesome you can be, Naruto. What crawled up your butt, Shika? I didn't say I was going to fight them. I just said we should. He's been taking a lot of cold showers, he finds them to be a drag, Shino explained. Naruto laughed in return. Oh, I wouldn't know. I hate both you bastards, Shika said, getting even Shino to chuckle. The scene confused the ANBU, none of them used to being treated like non-factors, especially in this larger group. The boys made a show of surrendering, especially the son of the Yondaime, as if he were doing them the favor. The boys continued to converse as they traveled in a leisurely pace under a, once again, cloudless sky. Darui had been in Iwa for several days. He'd made no progress, the Tsuchikage wanting to speak about everything but the reason for the Kumo Nin's visit. Now, he was headed to a rock garden, hopefully, to start their talks in earnest. He moved silently across the gravelly walkways, it not even requiring effort. As he trudged along he eventually spotted Onoki sitting by a cliff. Darui joined him, making sure to make his presence known. Darui-san, thank you for joining me, Onoki greeted. Thank you for having me, Onoki-sama, Darui responded. Despite what your time here may indicate, I do tend to prefer getting to the point of things. I won't apologize for giving you the runaround as I needed to know what kind of man you are. You see, after his abrupt exit from Suna, no sitting cage will ally with A. Sure, none of us sincerely believed he fled in fear, but that is the perception and it is one that benefits us all. Forgive my bluntness, Onoki-sama, but if the answer was going to be no then why the games? Because A would have lost his temper, blustered and threatened. Even with an inferior hand, he projects strength as if the world will cower as a result. You remained patient and focused. That's good to know for the time ahead. Times ahead? Darui questioned. A has made war an inevitability. If for no other reason than to reclaim your Jinchuriki and Kumo's loss of reputation. Add to that, Tsunade is not Hiruzen and won't extend herself as far for the sake of peace. No, war is coming and I am confident Kumo cannot win though I doubt that's news to you. Even if your goal is to kill much of the new generation, how many will you sacrifice to do so? How many of your future will you jeopardize just to hobble Konoha's own? Darui remained silent. He didn't disagree with the protector of Iwa and felt no need to mount a hollow defense. So, A's war is inevitable. Unless it isn't. You have one chance to avoid this, Darui-san, but I do not know if you have it in you to do so. And what is this path that is clear to only you, Onoki-sama? Iwa will not ally with Raikage, that is the way it must be. But I would enter a partnership with Raikage Darui, Onoki explained. He saw the Kumo Junin have no outward reaction but that didn't surprise him. He'd taken the man's measure and did not find him wanting. Onoki turned to leave him saying, I'll leave you here to think about that, as he departed. Darui would stay there for several hours before returning to his room. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.